Our next guest wanted to do a clip here from the Financial Sense News Hour, which is one of my other avatars, I guess, if we're going to use some electronic expressions, from the second week of June, because we are going through another shift in economics globally. We're out where we've never been before as far as the history of the world. And so you can see the next set of crises forming like a storm cloud. Do you hear this being discussed in the election stuff? No, you don't. Everybody's speculating, will there be another Fed raise coming up this month? Because Janet Yellen is trying to scunch that rate up, even if it does damage to the economy, in order that the next recession that hits, we have something to stimulate with. And that thing is just right around the corner, probably next year. They're trying to keep everything propped up before the elections. Here's Jim Poplava from the show.
I mean, we really hit a couple milestones this week. And if you're not aware of this, if you're not following events overseas, a 10-year German bond got down to a yield of 0.49. In other words, if you were to lend money to the German government for 10 years, you would get paid 0.05%. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. Now, and I'm going to get a little technical here for those of you who aren't familiar with Wall Street terms. We refer to interest rates on Wall Street in terms of basis points. 1% is equal to 100 basis points. In other words, a 10-year German bond today yields less than 5 basis points. And it gets crazy if we look at, for example, British gilts. British gilts got down to 1.26%. Now, let me spend a few moments here and explain the significance of that. The Bank of England was founded in 1694 as a means of financing King William III's war with France. Now, at various times in that history, the British government bond yields got down to 3%. For example, in the 18th century, during the Napoleonic Wars, they got down to 3% in the Austrian Succession Wars of 1751, but basically they've been over 3%. They got down to 3% during the South Sea Bubble. They got down to 2% following World War II in 1946, and then we had that crazy period in the 70s when U.S. Treasuries got up to 15.5%, and British gilts were yielding 16%. So, in other words, with British gilt yields getting down to 1.26%, that is the lowest interest rate in the history since the founding of the Bank of England in 1694. We are dealing with the lowest interest rates in recorded human history. And it gets even worse. 50-year. We were talking about 10-year. Now, if you go out, Britain has issued 50-year bonds, and the interest rate on a 50-year bond, I have no clue, 50 years from now, the yield on a British gilt is less than 2%. Japan is issuing 40-year bonds with a yield that is less than 0.4%. And that is just going to show you how unusual we are right now with governments printing money and this deflationary force that's working its way through the economy in the financial markets. The fact that we are looking at the lowest interest rates in England just goes to show you the kind of world that we're living in.
Despite what they're doing, we talked about all the mechanisms they've tried to do to get things going. They can't get economic growth out of it. The IMF just lowered growth rates. We're down to 2.4, so you can pitch out the old 3% projection. And what people don't realize is you listen to what's going on in the debate, listen to what the people are saying about what's being said in the debate. And what they don't realize is that all of this, the policies of creating credit, taxes, and regulation, are due to government or central bank policy. And yet, even though that's been the cause of the mess that we're finding ourselves in a position worldwide, the public is clueless as to why we're in this mess. And so that makes them susceptible to doing the wrong thing or asking the wrong leaders to get them out of the mess.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because basically, if you're listening to this year's election, we've got possible trade wars. If you're looking at what Trump's talking about China, which is fallacious in every way because China has pegged its currency to the dollar. Also, you have Bernie Sanders that's basically saying what we need is more taxes and more regulation. We'll just confiscate the stuff and give you a whole bunch of free stuff when the government is on the verge of going broke. We will have $20 trillion of debt when Obama leaves office. George Bush doubled the national debt from $5 trillion to 10. And Obama, when he leaves office after 8 years, will have doubled the national debt from 10 to 20 trillion. And yet the solution being proposed is, gosh, government has done a great job. What we need is more government. It's being reflected in how this campaign is being run and the issues that are being discussed. But we've got some problems coming up here, and that's what's going to put the central banks in the world, especially the Fed, in a predicament in terms of what to do in the second half of the year.
Well, the next 48 months are going to be really interesting, that's for sure. From the Financial Sense News Hour a couple of weeks ago that Jim Paplava and I did, that was at financialsense.com. We are at steelonsteel.com. I'm John Lufter. The program is Steel on Steel.